former chief of staff, Stephanie Grisham, tweeted a screen grab of an exchange they had during the attack on the Capitol. So she texted to Melania, "Do you want to tweet that peaceful protests are the right of every American?" But while yesterday's news was all about Donald Trump's totally psychotic behavior on the day of the insurrection, we also got a glimpse at Melania's awfulness. There is no place for lawlessness and violence. And Melania wrote back, "No."
What had Melania Trump wiping tears behind closed doors? Chelsea Handler's brutal takedown left no stone unturned. From the rug photo shoot to the infamous jacket, Handler exposed every detail. But how did Melania really react? Stick around to witness the Sphinx reportedly crack under pressure. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now back to the video.
Although this should come as no surprise when you consider all of the terrible things Melania has said yes to over the years. She said yes to visiting an immigrant and child detention center wearing a jacket that said, "I really don't care, do you?" She said yes to questioning the legitimacy of Obama's birth certificate. And worst of all, she said yes to a proposal from Donald Trump. She said yes to plagiarizing Michelle Obama's convention speech. She said yes to the most idiotic slogan in First Lady history, "Be best."
What's the deal with Melania Trump's poker face? For years, she's been the epitome of calm, a blank slate, a human sphinx watching the chaos around her without so much as a twitch. But Chelsea Handler, during her comedy routine, decided to give us all a reason to wonder. What's really going on beneath that icy exterior? Handler dove right in, aiming her sharpest barbs squarely at Melania, who, let's just say, did not come out unscathed. Handler didn't hold back. She kicked things off by throwing it all the way back to one particularly infamous moment, January 6, 2021. While chaos unfolded at the Capitol, videos later emerged of Melania, not glued to the news, but shooting a photo shoot. Yes, while the country reeled in shock, Melania was apparently posed on a decorative rug, making sure the lighting hit just right. This became a central point of Handler's routine as she mocked her apparent priority to get the perfect angle, while the rest of the government was literally under siege. Handler painted Melania as someone who's mastered the art of being disconnected.
Which is basically opting to go to a gold-plated prison and become a stepmother to the 4 vampire children Donald Trump calls his children. I only despise women who fall into one of 3 categories. They hate other women, they're married to a man who hates women, or they're a racist whose cover is being married to a black person. Speaking of women I despise, let's talk about Virginia Thomas, wife of Clarence Thomas. She's the worst. And I don't want you to think that I enjoy bashing women.
Or, as she put it, an immovable human sphinx. You know that stone-faced mystery who always seems miles away from everything? Well, Handler wasn't buying the act, especially when she threw Melania's iconic wardrobe choices into the mix. That "I really don't care, do you?" jacket came up, of course, because how could it not? Back when she wore it on her visit to a detention center for migrant children, it caused an uproar because, well, whether or not she really didn't care, the message seemed painfully tone-deaf. Handler leaned into that moment hard, spinning it into proof of how Melania's public persona is wrapped in layers of indifference. According to Handler, the jacket has become a sort of metaphor for Melania herself, an unbothered outer shell with, well, not much effort spent on what's inside. Handler's roast of Melania wasn't just about what she did or didn't do, it was also about the perception she works hard to maintain. The comedian jabbed at Melania's nonchalant demeanor and her apparent knack for vanishing from headlines every time things got tense. When the Capitol was under attack, Melania wasn't just on another planet, she was hiring a photographer to document it, Handler joked, to roaring laughter from the crowd. This line, sharp as a knife, seemed to solidify Handler's broader point. Melania may look poised and above it all, but in moments of actual historic weight, her actions, or lack thereof, say quite a bit more. Now, the way Handler delivered these lines wasn't just funny. It was surgical. Every word was designed for maximum impact, and her timing had the audience eating out of her hand. If you've ever seen Handler work a room, you know she doesn't pull punches, and that night was no exception. The crowd was in stitches, with many nodding or cheering through her punchlines. Her routine quickly went viral, with social media lighting up as clips from her set were shared far and wide. Fans praised her ability to say what everyone else is thinking, while critics, yes, there were a few, bemoaned her as mean-spirited. But regardless of where people stood, Handler's commentary sparked a fresh wave of debate about the former First Lady. Was Melania a helpless bystander to her husband's controversial years in office, or was she complicit in his chaos? Handler wasn't interested in softening her stance, and that left people talking. Still, the question remains, was Melania paying attention at all? It's easy to imagine her brushing it off in her signature style, a glance, perhaps a shrug, and then back to whatever photo setup she's planning next. But rumors began swirling that Handler's takedown may have hit a little closer to home than expected. For someone so famously poised, losing her cool would be breaking news. And now people are starting to wonder, did Chelsea's words finally puncture that unbreakable stone-cold image? Handler seemed to suggest that the Sphinx isn't as impenetrable as it seems, and if that's even slightly true, it's no wonder her roast sent fans into a frenzy. Because under the rolling laughter and viral punchlines, there's something a bit more poignant going on here. Handler's roast was a comedy routine, sure, but it doubled as a critique, a playful yet pointed reminder of how much power perception holds in shaping public figures. Nobody lets Melania completely off the hook anymore, not after years of silence and indifference in moments where even half a sentence would have spoken volumes. But here's where it gets interesting. If Handler's set managed to make people look twice, did it also manage to nudge Melania out of her bubble? That's the real intrigue, because if there's one thing we do know about the Trumps, it's that they find public criticism hard to ignore, no matter how much we're told otherwise. And for Melania, this roast might have been her most unforgiving spotlight yet. What would it look like if the famously unflappable Melania Trump finally cracked? Imagine this: the woman who has stood stoically through endless controversies, who barely flinched during her husband's chaotic presidency, sitting in a gilded room, succumbing to just one sharp tear rolling down her cheek, all because of Chelsea Handler's vicious viral roast. It's almost too absurd to picture, and yet oddly satisfying. You can almost see it. Melania perched stiffly on the edge of a cream-colored chaise, the perfect portrait of restraint, suddenly letting out an exasperated sigh as she scrolls through the endless tweets and Instagram clips replaying Handler's routine. Titles like "Chelsea Handler destroys Melania" and "Melania Trump gets dragged" flash across her screen. Maybe her stoic composure cracks just enough for her to mutter under her breath in her signature accent, "Who is this Chelsea Handler anyway?" As the video plays for the fifth time, she types furiously into Google, the phrase "Chelsea Handler net worth" popping up in the search bar. After all, if there's one thing the Trumps respect, it's money. So perhaps the only way to reconcile this public embarrassment is to check if the person humiliating her is at least, rich. And then there's the rug, the infamous rug from that photo shoot Chelsea just had to bring up. Imagine Melania pacing furiously around the room, her usually pristine self disheveled, mascara smudging slightly as she dramatically clutches her phone. Why does everyone talk about the rug? It was a Fendi rug. We can only speculate on whether she allowed herself the faintest cry over Handler's jab, that biting comment about her shooting photos while the Capitol was under siege. You get the sense Melania might be flipping through those photos now, squinting at the lighting. "It wasn't even my best shoot," she mumbles, before tossing her phone onto a pile of throw pillows. The room likely descends into a pin-drop silence, save for the echo of her forlorn, "Why me?" Of course, let's not forget the infamous, "I really don't care, do you?" jacket, which Handler expertly resurrected for the roast, calling it a wearable metaphor for Melania's carefully curated indifference. In this imaginary tantrum, you can almost hear the groan that follows as Melania reluctantly pulls open her closet door to stare at the controversial green Zara jacket hanging there, taunting her. It's practically a relic now, a haunting reminder of one misstep she can never escape, even during a comedy set years later. Does she toss it in frustration or clutch it tighter in defiance? It's anyone's guess. Either way, the image of her glaring at the jacket as if it has betrayed her is just too compelling to ignore. Now, the thought of Melania genuinely being rattled by stand-up comedy feels so far-fetched, it might as well be parody. But isn't that what makes the whole thing so hilariously bizarre? Handler's jokes were sharp, certainly, but to picture them cutting through Melania's icy reserve like a hot knife through butter requires a stretch of imagination. Handler perfectly captured the public's perception of Melania as a passive onlooker. But where Handler's comedy left audiences roaring with laughter, the idea of Melania silently stewing in her designer slippers over a joke, that alone could launch 1,000 memes. Cue slow-mo footage of her clutching pearls while a single parody-titled YouTube clip plays on repeat in the background. And yet, there's something oddly satisfying about imagining her upset, or at least mildly inconvenienced, by the roast. For years, Melania has been this untouchable figure in the Trump world, seemingly hardened by opulence and apathy. The idea that anything, let alone comedy, could genuinely rattle her adds an almost human touch, and not the flattering kind. Handler's "human sphinx" comment feels more apt by the minute. Stoic or not, it's hard not to wonder if even a sphinx would want to scream occasionally. Then again, maybe this imagined meltdown is just that, a fantasy we construct because watching public figures face consequences, even theoretically, is sometimes all the catharsis we get. In reality, Melania is probably sitting somewhere, cool as ever, strategizing her next red carpet-worthy moment to remind the public of her curated aloofness. Still, Handler's roast wasn't just a flurry of jokes aimed at Melania's unbothered persona. It was a subtle dismantling of the image her PR team has spent years building, a figure resolutely detached from her husband's chaos, portrayed as a reluctant participant in the drama. Melania has always managed to keep a certain mystique by saying so little, letting the headlines and the internet fill in the blanks. But Handler's set reminded us how powerful humor can be when it's aimed at the truth, or at least the perception of it. Whether Handler's routine struck a nerve in Melania or not doesn't change the fact that the cracks it suggested, the moments of apathy slipping into absurdity, are now being scrutinized more than ever. And if one roast can do that, imagine how the rest of the Trump family must feel about being next in line. Chelsea Handler's roast of Melania Trump wasn't just a comedy act. It was a sharp critique wrapped in humor. By revisiting moments like the Capitol photo shoot and the "I really don't care" jacket, Handler highlighted the contradictions in Melania's carefully built image. Her ability to make people laugh while exposing deeper truths was a reminder of satire's power to hold public figures accountable. Whether Melania noticed or not, Handler's takedown sparks bigger conversations about the personas that leaders or their spouses curate. It leaves us wondering, will Melania remain unshaken, or is her public image slowly starting to unravel?